Hey everyone, Miss White here, and today we're going to discuss writing responses to reading something that uses evidence or uses details from the text. And this is part one. This is one way that you can do this. Let me show you. Okay, guys, do you remember this? The table format for writing strong paragraphs? If you don't, take a look at the Writing Strong Paragraphs video that I've made. Take a look at that. But if you remember, the top of our table is the main idea or the topic. Then we want supporting details, at least 3, well 4 is better, 3 to 4 details that support our main idea so that our table stands strong and doesn't flop over, right? Okay, well we can use the same idea when writing a response to something we're reading. Okay, so the only real difference between how we learned how to do the paragraph about something, an informational something that we're writing to inform somebody about something, and a paragraph that's a response to reading is the tabletop. Instead of the main idea or the main topic of what we're writing about, we want to write down our answer. Okay, we want to restate the question, then state the answer using very specific word choice. Very specific answering. We want to make sure we include the question, include names, include the important information, and then give our answer. Okay? So the only difference is how the top thing is. Because then we need a detail from the text or supporting detail, a supporting detail, supporting detail. How do we know this? How do we know that that is the answer? Well, the answer is that's where we need to use supporting details. We need to add those details from the text to each of the legs. Each leg should have a different supporting detail directly taken from the text. We might say stuff like, in the text here it says, or in paragraph 3 it says, or when this character, name the name, says, okay, we actually want to include specific details from the text. We want to include that in our paragraph. Okay, enough theory. Let me show you. Okay, so we have a question. Which senses, sound, sight, touch, smell, taste, does the passage mainly appeal to? Use details from the text to support your answer. Well, I'm not totally sure I understand what they're asking for, but let me read and see if I can figure it out. The cool breeze didn't give Amy any relief from the heat. The sun beat down on her ears, shoulders, and neck. Beads of sweat slid down her face and stung her eyes. Amy didn't care about the sweat blurring her vision or that the heat rising in waves from the pavement. She only heard the rhythmic grinding of the gears, the bike chain smoothly turning around and round with the motion of the pedals. There were 5 more miles left in the bike race before Amy had to hop off and begin the 7-mile run. She couldn't think about that right now. She had to focus on finishing the bike race. Fans cheering and clapping along the trail broke her concentration at times, but her aching body quickly brought her back to the reality of the situation. The race wasn't over. Ignoring the piercing cramps and growing fatigue, Amy pumped her legs harder and faster and surged ahead. Which senses, sound, sight, touch, smell, taste, does the passage mainly appeal to? Use details from the text to support your answer. Okay, well, I'm going to mark this up a little bit. Let's see. The cool breeze didn't give Amy any relief from the heat. The sun beat down on her ears, shoulders, and neck. I feel like this is touch. See, what else? Beads of sweat slid down her face and stung her eyes. See, that's still touch. It's sliding down her face. She can feel it happening. Amy doesn't care about this vision blurring or the heat waves rising from the pavement. This is talking about sight. See, so sweat blurring her vision. Heat rising in waves from the pavement. That's something you would see. And she heard the rhythmic grinding of the pedals. gears, bike chain smoothing, turning round and round, the motion of the pedals. Oh, wait a second, that's not all hearing. Let's go back. This one she'd hear. Chain smoothly turning round and round, the motion of the pedals. That looks like touch again, because she's doing that, right? So that's touch. There were 5 more miles in the bike race before Amy had to hop off and begin the 7-mile run. Man, that would make me tired. She couldn't think about that right now. She had to focus on finishing the bike race. Fans cheering and clapping around the trail broke her concentration at times. Okay, so the clapping, fans cheering, this would be hearing. Broke, but her aching body quickly brought her back to the reality. This would be touch. She can feel that. The race wasn't over. Ignoring the piercing cramps and growing fatigue. Well, I don't know what fatigue would be considered, but piercing cramps, that would be touch. Growing fatigue, Amy pumped harder and faster and surged ahead. Okay, so which senses, sounds, touch, smell, taste does this passage mainly appeal to? Well, if I just look at my underlines and my markings, I can see that we have 1, 2, 3, at least 4 times where touch is talked about. We only have 1 time that really talks about sight, but we have 2 times that we talk about sounds we could hear or things we could hear. I think that means we should focus on touch and hearing. Okay, so we want to take that table. Okay, let's see what we can come up with. We want to turn the question around. We want to restate the question, state our opinion, state what we're thinking. What's my answer? Which senses or sounds, which senses does the passage mainly appeal to? Well, this passage mainly appeals to touch and hearing, because there's 2 hearing. Okay, so I'm going to write that down. The passage about Amy's race mainly appeals to touch and hearing. Okay, since I don't know the title of this excerpt, I just decided to explain what it was about. So I said the passage about Amy's race mainly appeals to touch and hearing. And really, I could choose to just talk about touch and not even talk about hearing. Oh, you know what I need to add now that I'm looking at this again? I should add something here. Appeals to the senses. See, that wasn't clear. Senses of touch and hearing. Even better. Perfect. Okay, now I need to add my details. Well, I can look back at my text and how I marked it up. And so I can look and see that touch, the sun beat down on her shoulders, beads of sweat in her face, it stung her eyes. So I might start by saying, in the text, okay, so where is our proof? We can we could say, and we always want to start with a transition, like in the text, but for the sake of this table, let's ignore that for now. Let's just talk about the fact that, okay, I want to talk about, that she feels touch when the beads of sweat. And I know I want to talk about that. And then I know I want to talk about touch with her smoothly turning round and round. And actually, you know what? I don't want to talk about that one. I want to talk about, this one's more interesting to me. I want to talk about the one with her aching body touch, with her aching body, bringing her back to reality, and piercing cramps. Then we want to talk about hearing. Want to make sure we try to keep it similar in how much is in there. And we might talk then about the rhythmic grinding of gears. and hearing fans cheering and clapping. Okay, now we have all the information we need for a really solid response to reading. Okay, so now the question is, how do we put this together in a paragraph? Well, it's pretty easy because we're just going to use the information from the text and the information from our table to put it all together. Okay, I'm going to do this one sentence at a time. I'm going to do the introductory sentence, and then I'll explain, and the next sentence explain, and you get it. Anyways, okay, here we go. Okay, so I started by saying the passage about Amy's race mainly appeals to the senses of sound and touch. Now, on the table, I had said it appears to the sound of hearing, and in my notes, I referred to hearing, but when I looked back at the question, I realized it actually said sound, so I decided to change it to sound. Okay, so I can really see the author's appeal to the sense of touch when the text says that beads of sweat slid down her face and stung her eyes. That part shows it to me, so I just quoted it. The author appeals to the sense of touch when the text says this. Okay, when else does it appeal to the sense of touch? Okay, so now I've added that the text also appeals to the sense of touch when it says, ignoring the piercing cramps and growing fatigue. With both of these, I can just feel it happening within my own body. I feel it just like it's written. Okay, let's continue. In the introductory, in the topic, in this part up here, I said touch and sound. That means in my body, I need to make sure I include both of those. So now I'm going to transition to talking about touch.